listen, I know what you're feeling right now. You're stuck in that loop, overanalyzing the past, replaying every conversation, wondering what you could have done differently. But here's the truth. If you have to beg for someone to see your worth, they're not your person. Let me say it again. If you have to chase, convince, or shrink yourself just to keep someone around, they're not for you. And the longer you hold on to what's not working, the longer you delay what's meant for you. If you have to beg for someone's attention, they're not your person. That's a hard truth to accept, but it's one that will set you free. When you find yourself constantly waiting for a text, overanalyzing their words, or feeling like you have to prove your worth just to get a little bit of their time, that's your sign. That's your wake-up call. You are not supposed to convince someone to see you, value you, or love you. Real love, real connection doesn't require chasing. It doesn't require shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's world. When you are in a situation where you feel like you have to work for someone's love, it's easy to start believing that if you just do a little more, if you just become a little better, if you just wait a little longer, maybe they'll finally see your worth. But that's not how this works. The right person will never put you in a position where you feel like you have to beg. They will never make you question whether you matter to them. When someone truly cares, you won't have to fight for a place in their life. It will be clear in the way they show up, in the way they prioritize you, in the way they make you feel seen, heard, and valued. The problem isn't that you're not enough. The problem is that you're trying to get love from someone who is incapable or willing to give it to you the way you deserve. And I get it. Letting go is hard. It's hard to walk away when you've invested so much time and energy. It's hard when you've built up a version of them in your head that doesn't match their actions. It's hard when you're holding on to memories of how good things were in the beginning, hoping that maybe, just maybe, things will go back to that. But you have to understand that love isn't supposed to feel like an uphill battle. It's not supposed to feel like you're constantly trying to prove why you're worthy of it. You deserve to be with someone who chooses you, not someone you have to convince. You deserve to be with someone who makes an effort, who communicates, who makes you feel secure in the relationship. And if that's not what you're getting, then you have a decision to make. You can keep chasing, keep hoping, keep trying to mold yourself into what you think they want. Or you can take all of that energy and pour it back into yourself. You can take a step back and remind yourself of who you are. When you focus on yourself instead of trying to hold on to someone who isn't holding on to you, you start to realize that your happiness was never meant to be in someone else's hands. You start to remember that your worth isn't determined by whether or not someone chooses you. And when you shift that focus, when you stop making excuses for why they're distant or inconsistent, you begin to see things clearly. You begin to see that love isn't supposed to feel like this. Love isn't supposed to feel like you're walking on eggshells, afraid that if you say the wrong thing or ask for too much, they'll pull away even more. It's time to stop waiting for them to change. Stop waiting for them to wake up one day and suddenly realize that they love you the way you've been loving them. People don't change just because you love them harder. They change when they want to, when they're ready, and that's not something you can control. What you can control is how much longer you allow yourself to sit in a situation that's draining you, making you doubt yourself, and keeping you stuck. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't mean you didn't try. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It means you're finally choosing yourself. It means you're finally realizing that you don't have to settle for breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole cake. It means you're stepping into your power, into your worth, and recognizing that the right love will never require you to beg for it. The moment you let go of the need to convince someone to care, you free yourself. You free yourself from the cycle of disappointment. You free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of wondering where you stand. You free yourself from the anxiety of overthinking every interaction. And in that freedom, you make space. Space for healing, space for growth, space for the right person to come into your life when the time is right. You don't need to chase, you don't need to beg, you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. The right person will see you, appreciate you, and show up for you without hesitation. But before that person arrives, you have to make sure you're showing up for yourself first. That starts with letting go of anyone who makes you feel like you're not enough. Because the truth is, you've always been enough. You just need to believe it. Holding on to the wrong person delays what's meant for you. It's easy to convince yourself that if you just try harder, if you just give it more time, if you just prove how much you care, things will eventually fall into place. But deep down, you already know the truth. You feel it in the pit of your stomach, in the quiet moments when you're alone with your thoughts. You know this person isn't showing up the way you need them to. You know the connection isn't giving you the love, respect, and consistency you deserve. But still, you hold on. You hold on to the memories, to the potential, to the idea of what could be, even when reality has shown you time and time again that this isn't it. You tell yourself that maybe if you wait a little longer, they'll change. Maybe if you love them harder, they'll finally see your worth. Maybe if you just ignore the red flags, things will somehow work out. But all that waiting, all that hoping, all that effort is keeping you stuck, is keeping you from stepping into the life that's truly meant for you. Every second you spend clinging to someone who isn't right for you is a second you could be using to build yourself, to grow, to heal, to create space for the right person to come into your life. The truth is, the right person cannot find you if your heart and energy are tied up in something that's not meant to last. The love that is meant for you, the one that will cherish you, uplift you, and love you the way you deserve, cannot enter your life while you're still holding on to what's broken. You have to let go of what isn't working in order to receive what is. You have to release the idea that you can fix something that was never meant to be fixed. You have to stop believing that settling for less than you deserve is somehow better than being alone. Being alone is not a punishment. Being single is not a failure. What's truly heartbreaking is wasting years of your life pouring love into someone who doesn't appreciate it, trying to force something that isn't meant for you, and missing out on the opportunities, relationships, and experiences that are aligned with your true happiness. You cannot manifest the love you want while entertaining a situation that drains you. You cannot build a beautiful future while holding on to the pieces of a broken past. Every time you choose to hold on to the wrong person, you are sending a message to yourself and the universe that you do not believe you deserve better. You are telling yourself that this is the best you can get and that lie keeps you trapped. But deep down, you know there is more for you. You know that love is supposed to feel different. Love is supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel like home, not like a battle you have to fight every single day. The right person will not make you question your worth. The right person will not leave you feeling anxious, insecure, or unseen. They will not treat you like an afterthought or make you beg for the bare minimum. The right person will come into your life and show you why it never worked with anyone else. But first, you have to clear the space. You have to stop clinging to someone just because you're afraid of being alone. You have to trust that letting go isn't the end, it's the beginning. Letting go is scary. It means stepping into the unknown. It means walking away from something familiar, even if that familiarity has been hurting you. It means choosing yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. But you have to remind yourself that nothing incredible happens in your comfort zone. Growth doesn't happen in places that drain you. True love doesn't exist where you have to fight to be noticed. When you finally let go of what isn't meant for you, something amazing happens. You start to feel lighter. You start to breathe easier. You start to remember who you are outside of that relationship, outside of that person, outside of the pain that's been holding you back. You start to see possibilities again. You start to realize that you are whole on your own, that you never needed anyone else to complete you. Holding on to the wrong person is like holding on to a heavy weight while trying to swim. The longer you hold on, the more exhausted you become. The harder it is to keep your head above water. But the moment you release it, the moment you decide that you deserve better, you start to float. You start to move forward. You start to attract people and experiences that align with the version of you that is healed, happy, and thriving. You cannot change the past, and you cannot force someone to love you the way you need them to. But you can choose yourself. You can decide that you are worthy of the love you keep giving to the wrong person. You can stop settling for less. You can walk away knowing that the right love, the one that is meant for you, will never require you to beg, to shrink, or to suffer. The moment you choose yourself, everything that is truly meant for you will begin to fall into place. Stop romanticizing someone's potential. Believe their actions. It's so easy to fall in love with the version of someone you've created in your mind. You see glimpses of who they could be, moments where they show kindness, effort, or love, and you cling to those moments as if they define the whole relationship. You tell yourself that if they could just be like that all the time, everything would be perfect. But that's not reality. Reality is how they treat you consistently, not just in the moments when it's convenient for them. Potential is a dangerous thing to fall for because it keeps you stuck in a cycle of waiting. Waiting for them to change, waiting for them to grow, waiting for them to wake up one day and finally be the partner you know they could be. But how long have you been waiting? How many times have they made promises only to break them? How many times have you convinced yourself that this time will be different? The truth is, people don't change just because you see their potential. They change when they decide to, and that's not something you can force. You cannot build a relationship based on what someone could be. You have to base it on who they are right now. And if who they are right now is someone who is inconsistent, who doesn't value you, who doesn't put in the effort, then that is your answer. That is the reality you need to accept, no matter how much you wish it were different. It's time to stop making excuses for why they haven't stepped up. Stop telling yourself that they're just going through something, that they just need more time, that if you just love them enough, they'll finally change. Love is not supposed to be a project where you mold someone into the person you need them to be. The right person will already be willing to do the work. The right person will already be meeting you at your level, not requiring you to pull them up. You cannot build a healthy, fulfilling relationship on hope alone. Hope keeps you hanging on to something that isn't serving you. Hope keeps you ignoring the red flags. Hope keeps you stuck in a situation where you are giving far more than you are receiving. But love isn't about suffering. Love isn't about waiting years for someone to finally get it right. Love isn't about lowering your standards just to keep someone in your life. When you focus on someone's potential instead of their actions, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Because you are not in love with them. You are in love with the idea of them. You are in love with a fantasy, with a version of them that doesn't actually exist yet. And every time they show you who they truly are, you ignore it because you're holding on to what could be instead of what is. How many times have you ignored your own intuition? How many times have you brushed off the signs because you didn't want to admit the truth? How many times have you accepted less than you deserve because you were afraid to let go? It's time to stop hoping for someone to become the person you need and start believing them when they show you that they're not. You need to wait for someone to grow up. You need to wait for someone to heal before they can love you properly. The right relationship will not require you to constantly explain why you deserve better treatment. The right relationship will not require you to constantly explain why you deserve better treatment. Respect, communication, effort, and love. Letting go of potential means accepting the present moment. It means looking at the relationship for what it is, not what you hope it will be. It means recognizing that love is not about waiting for someone to change. It's about finding someone who is already ready to love you the way you deserve. When you stop romanticizing potential, you free yourself from the endless cycle of disappointment. You stop giving chances to someone who keeps letting you down. You stop making excuses for behavior that hurts you. You stop settling for a love that is inconsistent, unfulfilling, and draining. You deserve someone who's ready now. Someone who doesn't need to be convinced to treat you right. Someone who doesn't need to be reminded of your worth. And that person will never be able to come into your life if you're still holding on to someone who is only halfway in. Letting go is not easy. It means facing the reality that the person you care about may never become what you hoped they would be. But it also means stepping into your power. It means choosing yourself. It means refusing to waste any more time waiting for something that may never happen. You don't need to fix anyone. You don't need to wait for someone to grow. You don't need to keep rewriting the story in your head just to justify staying. Believe their actions. Believe their patterns. Believe what they have shown you time and time again. The moment you do, you realize that holding on to potential has only been holding you back. And when you finally let go, you will make room for the love that is truly meant for you. Choose yourself first before expecting someone else to. It's easy to look to someone else for validation, to hope that if they pick you, it means you're worthy. But that's not how self-worth works. If you don't choose yourself first, you will always find yourself in situations where you are waiting for someone to notice you, waiting for them to prioritize you, waiting for them to love you the way you've been loving them. That waiting is what keeps you stuck in relationships that drain you, in cycles where you constantly feel like you're not enough. When you make someone else the center of your world before you've made yourself a priority, you give away your power. You start compromising on things that should never be compromised. You lower your standards just to keep them around. You make excuses for why they don't show up the way you need them to. You shrink yourself, thinking that if you can just be a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little more accommodating, they'll finally see your value. But that's not how love is supposed to work. The love you want starts with you. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. If you abandon yourself in an effort to hold on to someone else, you are teaching them that it's okay to put you second. If you don't prioritize your own needs, why would they? If you don't enforce your boundaries, why would they respect them? If you don't love yourself fully, how can you expect them to? People follow your lead. They see how you treat yourself and they mirror it. Loving yourself first doesn't mean you don't want love from others. It doesn't mean you have to be alone forever. It means you stop settling. It means you stop looking for someone else to give you the love and validation you should be giving yourself. It means you stop waiting for someone else to choose you before you believe that you are enough. It means you trust yourself enough to walk away from situations that are beneath you. When you choose yourself, you stop begging for love. You stop begging why you deserve to be treated better. You stop tolerating mixed signals and half-hearted effort. You stop holding on to relationships that require you to prove your worth. Choosing yourself means recognizing that your time, energy, and love are valuable. And you don't have to waste them on someone who doesn't fully appreciate them. You deserve a love that feels certain, a love that shows up for you without hesitation. But that kind of love won't come if you're still chasing after someone who doesn't see your... It won't come if you're still settling for relationships that leave you feeling unfulfilled. It won't come if you keep putting someone else's needs above your own. The right person will never require you to abandon yourself just to be with them. The more you focus on yourself, the more you attract people who respect you, who value you, who love you in the way you deserve. But that starts with the relationship you have with yourself. Do you speak to yourself with kindness? Do you set boundaries that protect your peace? Do you pursue your own passions, goals, and happiness outside of a relationship? Or do you make someone else the center of your world and lose yourself in the process? Choosing yourself means deciding that your happiness isn't dependent on whether someone else stays or leaves. It means knowing that being alone is better than being in a relationship where you feel unseen and unappreciated. It means trusting that you are whole on your own, that love should be an addition to your life, not something that defines your worth. You are not here to convince someone to love you. You are not here to wait for them to figure out if you are enough. You are not here to put your life on hold while they decide if they want to commit. You are here to live, to grow, to love yourself so deeply that anyone who enters your life has to meet you at that level. It's time to stop putting yourself second. Stop waiting for someone else to choose you. Stop believing that your worth is dependent on their love. The moment you start choosing yourself first, everything changes. The way you see yourself changes. The way you carry yourself changes. The way people treat you changes. You stop chasing, you stop settling, and you start attracting what you truly deserve. No one else can give you the love you refuse to give yourself. No one else can fill the void you feel inside. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And when you finally take the responsibility seriously, when you start showing up for yourself the way you wish someone else would, you'll realize that you were never waiting on you. Letting go makes space for the right person to find you. Holding on to someone who isn't right for you does nothing but block what is meant for you. You can't expect to receive the love you truly deserve if your heart and energy are still tied up in something that isn't serving you. You cannot invite the right person into your life while clinging to the wrong one. Letting go isn't just about walking away, it's about making room. It's about trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to beg, chase, or suffer. It's hard to let go when you've invested so much time and energy into someone. You tell yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, maybe things will change. Maybe they will finally see your worth. Maybe they will wake up one day and love you the way you need to be loved. But how many times have you told yourself that? How many times have you given them another chance only to be disappointed? How many times have you ignored the signs that this relationship is keeping you stuck? The right person will never be able to reach you if you're still holding on to the wrong one. Love cannot flourish in a space that is already occupied by something that is not working. You have to clear the space. You have to release what isn't meant for you. You have to trust that letting go is not losing, it's making room for something greater. The more you hold on to what isn't working, the more you delay what is. The longer you stay in a situation that drains you, the longer you prevent yourself from experiencing a love that truly fills you. Letting go is not easy. It requires you to face the unknown. It requires you to step into uncertainty, to trust that there is something better even when you can't see it yet. But that is what growth looks like. That is what faith looks like. That is what self-respect looks like. You deserve a love that meets you where you are. You deserve a love that doesn't make you question your worth. You deserve a love that feels certain, not one that keeps you in a constant state of doubt. The right love will not require you to hold on to something that hurts you. When you let go, you free yourself from the weight of expectations that were never going to be met. You free yourself from the cycle of waiting, hoping, and wondering if things will ever change. You give yourself permission to move forward, to heal, to rebuild, to find joy in your own company. And when you do that, something incredible happens. You become the version of yourself that is ready for real love. You become the person who no longer settles for bare minimum effort. You become the person who no longer entertains relationships that require you to fight for attention. The right person is not someone you have to beg for love. They are not someone you have to convince to choose you. They are not someone who makes you feel like you have to prove your worth. The right person will recognize your value from the beginning. They will show up fully, consistently, and wholeheartedly. They will not make you wonder where you stand, but you will never find that person if you are still tangled up in a relationship that is only holding you back. Letting go is an act of self-love. It is a declaration that you believe in something greater for yourself. It is a decision to stop settling, to stop hoping that someone will become the person you need, and to start believing that you are worthy of more. It is the moment you choose yourself over the illusion of what could be. Because the right person is not a possibility. They are a reality waiting for you on the other side of your healing. You don't have to rush the process. You don't have to force yourself to move on overnight. But you do have to make the choice. You do have to decide that your peace, your happiness, and your future are more important than holding on to someone who is not meant to stay. And when you finally release that weight, you will realize how much lighter you feel. You will realize how much space you have created, not just for someone else, but for yourself. When you clear the space, the right person will find you. Not because you are searching, not because you are trying to replace what you lost, but because you have made yourself available for the love you truly deserve. And that love will not require you to suffer first. It will not demand that you shrink yourself to fit someone else's needs. It will not feel like something you have to hold on to for dear life. It will flow naturally. It will feel safe. It will feel like home. But you cannot receive what is meant for you if you are still gripping onto what is not. You cannot invite new love into a space that is still cluttered with old wounds. You have to let go. You have to trust. You have to believe that what is meant for you will always, always find you. And the moment you do, everything will begin to change. You were never waiting on them. You were waiting on you. You thought you were waiting for them to change, to realize your worth, to finally step up and love you the way you deserved. You thought that if you were patient enough, understanding enough, forgiving enough, they would wake up one day and see what they had in front of them. You convinced yourself that the problem was time, that if you just gave it more time, they would become the person you needed them to be. But deep down, you knew. You knew that you weren't really waiting on them. You were waiting on yourself to finally accept the truth. You were waiting on yourself to stop making excuses for their behavior. You were waiting on yourself to stop settling for less than you deserved. You were waiting on yourself to be strong enough to walk away. You weren't trapped in that relationship because they wouldn't change. You were trapped because you weren't ready to let go. You kept holding onto hope, not because they deserved it, but because you weren't ready to face the reality that they never would. The hardest part was never losing them. It was losing the version of the relationship you created in your mind. It was letting go of the potential you saw in them. It was accepting that the future you imagined with them was never going to happen. That's what kept you stuck. Not the person, but the illusion of what you thought they could be. You weren't waiting on them to change. You were waiting on yourself to accept that they wouldn't. Every time they hurt you, every time they disappointed you, every time they made you question your worth, you told yourself that things would be different next time. You told yourself that if you just loved them harder, if you just communicated better, if you just proved how much you cared, they would finally get it. But love is not something you should have to convince someone to give you. Respect is not something you should have to beg for. You shouldn't have to fight to be seen, to be valued, to be chosen. The moment you have to fight for someone's love is the moment you need to realize it isn't real love. You are never waiting on them. You are waiting on yourself to stop being afraid of being alone. You were waiting on yourself to realize that loneliness is not nearly as painful as being in a relationship that makes you feel unseen. You were waiting on yourself to remember who you were before you gave so much of yourself away. The moment you finally decided to choose yourself, everything shifted. The moment you stopped waiting for them to see your worth and started seeing it for yourself, you reclaimed your power. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. Walking away is not giving up. It is the most powerful thing you can do. It is the moment you decide that you are no longer available for anything that doesn't align with the love, respect, and effort you give so freely. It is the moment you stop settling for potential and start demanding reality. It is the moment you choose your own happiness over the endless cycle of disappointment. You were never waiting on them, you were waiting on yourself to be ready. Ready to stop hoping they would change. Ready to stop breaking your own heart by staying. Ready to stop prioritizing their needs over your own. Ready to finally put yourself first. And when you did, you realized something powerful. You didn't lose them. You found you. You found the version of yourself that was buried under all the overthinking, all the self-doubt, you found the person you were before you forgot that you were enough on your own. The love you were searching for in them was the love you needed to give yourself. The peace you were waiting for in that relationship was the peace you were meant to create on your own. The happiness you thought they would bring was always within you, just waiting to be uncovered. You didn't need them to complete you. You were already whole. You just needed to remember. Now that you've let go, you can finally breathe again. You can finally see clearly. You can finally move forward without the weight of hoping for something that was never meant to be. And the best part? You no longer feel like you're waiting. You are no longer in limbo, trapped between what could be and what is. You are present. You are free. You are no longer waiting on anyone to choose you because you have already chosen yourself. And that is the most powerful thing you will ever do.